Before we get to our show, I have an ask of you, the listener. If you're new to us, or you've enjoyed us for over the last 4+ years and have gotten value out of listening, whether that be a new place to eat or a conversation that you've enjoyed, please consider sending some value our way. If you'd like to send a monetary amount, you can do so via Venmo or PayPal, and we are at Faturday Omaha. That's FATURDAYOMAHA. We would appreciate it, and 20% of those funds will go to a food-based program or charity and add value to other people's lives. If you don't have funds to spare, we'd appreciate your time and skills in sharing us on social, recommending us to others, liking and subscribing to the podcast, or maybe you have awesome skills like graphic design, marketing, or anything else. Email us at FaturdayOmaha@gmail.com. Let's get to our show. You seem hungry. Good thing your table is ready with Faturday Omaha.
Faturday Omaha.
Eat this. Ladies and gentlemen, eaters of all ages, it is time once again to bring you Faturday Omaha. And Dave Zorko is here sitting alongside of my co-host, TJ.
Well, we're more across from each other, Dave. It's the secret to really good radio chemistry is no but.
That's right.
Never yes and. Makes us adversarial and stops the show in its tracks so I can take a swig of this coffee.
Do you hear that out there? It's the kind of hosting like that just makes things dangerous, because I also have a coffee here, and because you were drinking that coffee, I couldn't get my own coffee and do this then. Oh, that was delicious. That was really good. That's a Fruity Pebbles latte I got right there.
First rule of radio, always be drinking and or chewing on things loudly.
All the time.
And speaking of eating and drinking things loudly, Dave, today we went to Acadian Grille.
We did. And what's very interesting about this episode is, so obviously we had been to Acadian Grille prior, and we did indeed go today as we are recording this. Yeah, you and I have been here several times recently to get a reboost of this flavor, and Acadian Grille is located at 725 North 114th Street with a good Miracle Hills zip code of 68154. And with that amazing zip code read, TJ, we should probably tell folks about the restaurant itself. The Acadian Grille is located inside the Miracle Hills strip mall area there, where you can find other restaurants, including, let's see, DJ's Dugout is there right now. Maharaja is there, and Julio's, and Acadian Grille has their own bay in there. As we are recording this, it's a little chilly outside. They do have a patio available, which I bet in the summer would be quite excellent. And on the interior, I find a nice, warm, inviting, I would say, New Orleans inspired interior with chandeliers. There's beads hanging off of them. They kind of went with the corrugated tin on the inside. A darker color motif with a nice map on the wall. It's just a nice and inviting place. Definitely casual. And more recently, they have removed the dividing wall that used to be way back. If you see the Zamog's food truck driving around, TJ, I believe that this location was actually the Zamog's brick and mortar restaurant. And I have a feeling that wall that they more recently took down was from the line area of where Zamog's would have queued up. So he's working on some expansion there, Dan, the owner of Acadian Grille there. So things are a-happening. How do you feel about the interior of Acadian Grille?
Dave, you hit most of the points that I was going to. It has sort of that barbecue joint feel to it.
Yeah.
Almost the corrugated metal kind of does that more than anything for me.
Agreed.
The wood that feels... It's not the dive kind of feel.
No, it is not.
But it feels very accessible.
Ooh,
Let's put it that way.
Yes.
I don't want to say pedestrian, because it has a very, very comfortable, and again, corrugated metal doesn't push towards the warm, but that's something about that rustic, I suppose.
Yeah, okay.
Is the closest I'm going to get in verbiage here.
All right.
So the overall, like, base feel to the place is that sort of barbecue joint. Reminds me a little of...
Reminds you of Fat Shack.
Fat Shack,
Yes,
thank you.
It absolutely does, and it's that same kind of, it's a longer
that same
bay.
setup, and then with, as you've pointed out, the Acadian, Cajun, Nolans
Yes.
type accents to it.
Yes.
Warm and inviting, more so than I would think, and the openness of the place. Well, I do like the feeling of openness in, especially in the spaces I'm going out in. Coziness is also important.
I would agree.
As open floor plan as this is, somehow the setup of the tables, the decor, certainly the friendliness of the wait staff and Dan, the owner, all contributes. It somehow has both the coziness and the openness at the same time, more so than you would think would be achievable in this
form
space.
factor. Yes,
yeah, it's pleasant.
Yes, and I would second that. We had a four-top table to ourselves for a quite a decent quantity of dishes, because there were two of us, but there were certainly more than 2 plates of food coming our way. But there were plenty of people in there, but I felt that we still kind of had our own little nook in the Acadian Grille, so that was very, very cool. I like that. How about we talk about some food? TJ, between my 3 visits here recently for this show and your visits as well, I think we have a large cross-section of things. I am going to start with the boudin balls, which is an appetizer. I would liken this to a Cajun arancini, because I think that's pretty much what it is. It's a fried rice ball with a little bit of sausage in there, and there are 4 to a plate, if I recall correctly. And there's I think it's like a remoulade sauce that comes with them, kind of a tart sauce. Perfect crisp and fry on these things. They're about as big as a 1 1/4 golf ball sized conveyance, as you say, give or take a little bit. TJ is questioning my spherical math currently.
Well, the thing is, because I haven't seen your most recent run of boudin balls.
Yes.
I'm thinking back several years, but I remember them being closer to, that 2 golf ball, like, racquetball size. I remember them being pretty big.
Perfect. All right, so let us carry on with the flavor then. I will say the fry on these is absolutely perfect. I do think it needs the sauce, because it has a slight acidity to a little vinegary essence to bring it together. The interior wasn't quite as pronounced from a seasoning level as I expected, but with the sauce you get the flavor and the crunch together. So 4 of these, kind of fun. I'm not sure. There maybe is a couple other spots in Omaha where you might be able to get these, but a neat appetizer. And so I'm just going to leave it at that. TJ, over to you for a dish, unless you want me to hit on something else, because I've got a big old list over here.
I do as well. Why don't we move into a item that we both had?
Okay.
An item that I was not expecting to see on the menu in a place of Cajun dining. The taco.
Oh, yeah. The taco. And I happened to get one of those today. Tell me about the taco, and then I'll tell you about my taco.
I keep finding a fried, puffy-ish type taco, the fried flour shell taco, in the oddest of places. I think it might just be because they're tasty. I keep finding them in weird places, like Jimbo's Diner in La Vista has them. La Vista Kino, if you're looking it up, it actually shows up easier there. Recently, I had one at Patty McGowan's Pub.
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Wasn't bad either, by the way. I didn't mind it.
I
the
would
least
believe
bit.
that.
I think it's hard to make a great one, as it is hard to make a great one of anything, but
Okay.
it's also hard to make a bad one.
Okay.
So it's a nice menu item to append to your existing offerings at a reasonable price. And append Acadian Grille has.
Yes.
Dave, did you get the meat loadout on this taco, the exact type?
Yeah, it's red chili.
I missed that entirely.
It's chili.
Yeah, when I was in, I ordered the taco and didn't think all that much of it, so most of it was a surprise. So a thicker than most, I certainly wouldn't go as far as puffy, a thicker than most outside shell, to the point where
Almost fry bread like.
but it's got a lot of crisp, like it's pretty much crisp all the way through, with just a little bit of that bready fluffiness in the middle. It felt to me, mine felt a lot like a pastry shell almost.
Oh.
Like a particularly good, like if you were going to make a meat pie with
Really?
a high degree of flakiness and a tenderness in the middle, but an otherwise minimal degree of tenderness. You're biasing towards the flaky, high fat content dough, and fried to a a very pleasant crisp, very, very robust shell was what I got. Now, that said, we will get into the wings later in our little chat here.
Mm-hmm.
And our mileage has varied considerably on the wings. So I didn't have any of your taco today. I had mine a few days ago.
Uh-huh.
So the exact resultant foodstuffs may depend on who is frying and chefing and running front of house, what staff is where that day.
Yeah.
So I am curious then, if yours was not a high-fat thing, that sort of...
Oh, there's some fat in there.
Yeah, not a toothsomeness. I hate to call it crumbly, but you could kind of feel that fried flour feel all the way through. You could feel the layers, that sort of flaky texture. A little biscuity, but not with the biscuity softness.
Dave here. Are you hungry yet? TJ and I are talking Acadian Grille, located at 725 North 114th Street, where you can get savory plates made with care. If a sweet tooth strikes you, they also make their own ice cream. But let's get to more show. Clearly, I'm guessing because before I ordered this taco today, there was a... we usually don't talk a ton about the food at the table. We save it for the microphones. But I believe you enjoyed your taco. Is this correct, TJ?
I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Excellent.
The shell is now a matter of strong curiosity because we usually agree on practically everything, at least certainly food-related. We're on the same page on almost all things except for a couple of contentious items. And it's looking
everything in common.
Like this one.
Yes.
Might be a shell of contention.
Oh, well, here's the interesting. I wanted to get that out there that you enjoyed your taco very much. And then I'm going to reverse that bookend and tell you that I also enjoyed my taco very much. And the description off the menu to get that out there is house-made fried dough, ground beef, 6 pork chili, lettuce, tomato, cheddar cheese. Interesting. So... Did you just say 6 pork chili? According to this menu, for which I am holding in my hand with the official Acadian Grille Scratch Kitchen seal, I will read this directly. House-made, space, fried dough, ground beef, 6 pork chili lettuce, tomato, and cheddar cheese.
All right, we may need to ask questions and return next week with a correction on certain items, or at least a clarification, because I'm not sure about the 6 pork chili lettuce. The last time I was in, and I'm going to minimize talking about the soups because they were delicious.
Yeah,
but they were not the primary things of note on either visit.
Okay.
But the last time I was in, I have since forgotten, but I remember at least 3 or 4 chilies in the smoked chicken chili, which was what I had the last time. And it was a heck of a list. So it may be a six chili pork chili, possibly?
Probably so. And so I first of all,
now I want a 6 pork chili.
I cannot cast any spelling stones or grammatical stones at anyone because I am very guilty of this, especially with compound words, etc. I really just wanted to read 6 pork chili lettuce because
we
it's
all
exciting.
Want 6 pork chili lettuce now.
Of course.
I don't know how you breed it. I don't know what kind of GMO magic goes in. And I'm not always for the crisper method of making vegetables more interesting and productive. If you can make me a 6 pork chili lettuce, I need that seed packet now.
I think my carbon steel walk and I are going to make some 6 pork chili lettuce with some chili crisp on it. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be pork chili 6 ways or 6 different porks or something.
I was going to say there's so many different cuts of pork and ways to prepare it. I could totally see a 6 pork chili.
And chili
but
lettuce
in this
is
case,
amazing.
I think you're about to have 6 pork and 5 spice and everything's going to come up roses.
Exactly. And that is the situation with my taco. But I think you and I had a slightly different taco. The meat in there, barring our fortunate, because it was funny, description of the interior, but think a red, meaty, non-beanie chili is instead of just ground beef in there is what I got. Lettuce, cheese. But the shell, though, you said yours was like crispy and those things. I got 100% delicious softness with just enough tender dough density. it was not greasy in any way, but I did not find it crispy throughout.
I will add to that. I am surprised with the softness.
Yeah.
That yours was not greasy, because mine
Not at
also
all.
was not greasy.
Nary agrees.
But yeah, had that. I hesitate to say a shortbready crispness all the way through.
Really?
But you were very aware of, in the best possible way,
Yeah.
flour and fat.
Right.
It just had.
Oh,
that
I was aware
texture
of
to
flour
it.
and fat, but it was a totally different texture.
Yeah,
so,
and I could
right.
feel the not as layered, perhaps, as a pie crust, but you could definitely feel it kind of break apart in the same way as I don't want to say crisp, a more robust pie crust.
Yeah.
So I think what we have is a winning taco shell dough recipe.
Yes.
That no matter who's frying it or
It doesn't
how,
matter.
it seems to come out pretty good. The chili makes sense.
Yep.
Because I
different.
didn't. Yeah, I forgot to ask on my way out because I was very happy and very full and just kind of went on my merry way.
Indeed.
So I didn't remember to ask what was in the taco. But as you described,
Six pork chili
the six
lettuce.
pork chili lettuce. Was yours saucy at all?
Yes.
Okay, mine very minimally saucy.
Minimally saucy.
But the flavor seems seems correct. So you have in Dave's case your softer flour shell fried
Yes.
up, non-greasy. My crispy flour shell fried up, also nary a bit of grease to be like my fingers were clean while eating my fried dough taco shell. Cheese of a decent quality. Decent sized slices of cooling lettuce. Like the whole thing together was a whole
good.
lot of layers and a whole lot of tastiness.
It was indeed. And I want to move over to some additional tastiness for something that I have not tried until today. You had this too, and that was the Cajun poutine. This was an item that I have not yet had at Acadian Grill until today. So these are longer cut French fries, not a shoestring, more like a crinkle cut, but not the straight standard, like a home fry.
It's not
That's
that
even
conjures a
either.
very specific image that's not quite right either. Batter dip fries, a little bit larger than a quarter inch.
Yeah. And most importantly, covered in gravy. There was so much gravy on these things, and I didn't know quite what to expect with the cheese, because the cheese actually worked out really well. It melded into the gravy nicely and had an excellent flavor profile, nicely spiced all the way through, and it wasn't dare I say it was not heavy for poutine, if that makes any sense?
Well, it's the lack of cheese curds, which I think would have been a misstep
I
in
agree.
this preparation. It would
This was
not
great.
have worked as well. Whereas it's cheese curds, thick gravy in poutine, generally speaking.
Right.
That's not
And
at
it's
all
a
what this
thinner
is.
gravy.
Yes.
It's not a really thick, floury gravy. There wasn't a ton of roux, used to really just bulk this out, or flour to bulk this out or anything. It was a thinner gravy, but still had a great texture to it, stuck to the fries good. There were plenty in the bowl, and just a great flavor. And I had pointed this out towards the end of the meal, is that the part of the fry that was sticking in the gravy and cheese and everything, sure, it was a little, gravy saturated as you wanted it to be. But even at the end of the meal, the part sticking out of the gravy was still crisp. And I kept going back to this poutine throughout the meal and ended up polishing off the rest. I was going to leave it, and then I didn't, and I just kind of polished off. I really enjoyed this.
I made the bad show prep mistake of leaving happy and full rather than further doing research. I believe, that might have been the same base as the gumbo. The soup that I had beforehand, I believe, was the same base as the gumbo with some cream added.
Yes,
As
yes,
we were-
correct. The special
Dan
soup for
told
today.
us what everything was. And
3 specials today when we went
I
in.
didn't take notes like I should have, but I believe both shared that gumbo base, mine being with cream and that being the base itself over fries with some cheese in there. So having had the soup first, I had some difficulty picking out the differences between what probably shared a great many spices. However, the quality of the fries and the way that they stood up to the preparation was very, very noticeable. That was my big takeaway there.
Indeed, and the definite some like red pepper in there, because you could see that within there, and a little bit of the cheese. Again, it was not overly cheesy, so if you're scared of poutine, don't worry about it. Go with this anyway. And man, I would put this gravy on some mashed potatoes and just love life. Dave here, moseying in mid-show to tell you that we're talking about Acadian Grille at 725 North 114th Street. There might be some time enough for a bite of Gouda Mac, but hang on, there's more to come. Quick break, and a note that if you'd like to support our show, you can do so via Venmo or PayPal with the handle at Faturday Omaha. That's FATURDAYOMAHA. And if money isn't the thing, but you have talents or time you can lend our way, just shoot us an email at FaturdayOmaha@gmail.com or share and interact with us on social and help us grow. Back to the show. Welcome back to Faturday Omaha. Dave Zorko here, and today is all about Acadian Grille. They're located at 725 North 114th Street, and TJ and I traverse the menu from Mac to Maple, ice cream that is, and I'm happy you're here with us. So let's dig in. I need to send it over to you, TJ, for yet another thing. What else did you happen to get on your many plates of many foods?
Well, I believe we can stick with things that we have both had for this next one here.
All right.
Because we kind of split a plate of wings.
We did.
Certain that I had more than you did. I think just because of the distribution of food, and I think I might have enjoyed them slightly more. I will say, again, difference in preparation. When I had them, I want to say a couple of months back, something like that. They were served in a different manner. These had much more Instagram-worthy preparation.
Oh, they looked great.
Yeah, they were beautiful. I want to. It was 10 wings for $10 was the special today on those. So 10 wings arranged on a rectangular plate with a little cup of house-made ranch.
Can we talk about how many individual items actually came out on that plate? Because it wasn't 10.
Oh, that's right. It would have been 5 because the wings were not split.
Yes, you got the whole wing.
Which also made for a nicer preparation, and that's...
No drummies and flats on this.
Yeah,
you got the whole thing.
Plays partially into the differences in this versus the last time I got them, where I think they were separated, but I do not remember. However, these were more crisp by far.
They were. That fry was dead on perfect on these. And smoked.
Yep, positives and negatives here. In both cases, the smoke was good. Nice, even, not too little, not too much. Somewhere in the middle where I could still taste some of the chickeniness.
Yes.
But it had a nice kind of, umami, deeper flavor to it with the smoke.
Chicken was moist.
Yep, done with a clarified butter on the outside, so super crisp. And wherein you got more of the butter, they were extra good with the butter, where it really concentrated, because you had complained about they could stand to be a little bit more salty.
I am a salt guy, but I think my palate, my salt detector palate, has evolved over the last 4.5 years. I think I have a legitimate one that I could have used a little something here.
I felt they were a little flat compared to the last time I had them, despite the fact that they had that nicer, more crisp texture.
Yeah, fry was perfect.
So I agree with you on that, and I don't know, butter could have been unsalted for all I know on this one, but wherein I got a good hit of that improved the balance considerably.
Okay.
That said, the crisp was nicer, and they were certainly more pretty. Again,
gorgeous.
Very nice presentation on these things. The last time I had them, again, don't remember if they were separated or not, but they were a little less crisp.
Okay.
They were almost saucy in their own right. I think the combination of the
maybe
butter
more butter
and a little less of a fry.
Okay.
And they were all kind of piled together, which, your takeout wings doing that is not great, but on the plate set hot and fresh in front of you, I think it did them some favors. And I remember them being a little bit more salty at the time.
Okay.
And also because they had sat together and softened up just a little bit.
Yeah.
And they had that feeling of sauciness to them. I think they were a little bit nicer and a little bit more moist with the less crisp fry. Again, still a crisp fry, still good, crisp skin, and that smoke combined with all of those factors. This time they were good. I would not discourage anyone from ordering them. They were my least favorite part of the meal, honestly, other than they were beautiful and crisp.
They were.
This time they were decent wings. The last time I had them, again, a couple of months back, I would possibly rate them the best wing I have ever had.
Wow, that's a very bold claim there, my friend.
And a pretty wide gulf between the two. Again, in both cases, good.
Golf?
I
Was
would
that some
say if
type
you were
of
there and
ocean
wings
joke?
sound good
Okay.
to you, order the wings. But this is another, your mileage may vary because it went from good wings this time to blew my socks, my shoes, and possibly like the cuffs of my pant legs off the last time I had them.
Well, so it sounds like either way, the fry was good. I have to say, smoke was good. Fry was good. The butter is a Cajun butter. I felt that for me it was a clarified butter and obviously a high quality butter that was on there. And I think what's kind of fun about these is almost their simplicity and the fact you've got smoke, butter, salt, crisp skin. There isn't a heavy sauce on them, so you are getting that chickeny essence that you were talking about, which is very cool. And today's with the non-split form factor with the drummies and the flats all together in one big wing, the heat retention was amazing. These were insanely hot, and of course, the nice part is you can see the kitchen from wherever you are in Acadian Grill. Everything has to be hot and fresh. The distance, I mean, literally, maybe even less than a stone's throw from kitchen to table. It's right there. It's going to be way hot. So that's cool. Okay, so let's move on to some additional things. TJ, did you have the jambalaya or gumbo on your foray here? Now, I think you did say you had the gumbo.
I believe, because yet again, didn't take the notes in time. I'm sorry, loyal listeners.
Come on, man.
But I believe that the tomato soup, the Cajun tomato
Had the
soup,
gumbo
was
essence.
the gumbo base.
Yeah.
And then
Cream
was added on
Yep.
top of that.
Yep,
And,
I believe you're correct.
Well, again, soup, both visits this time round and last time round, the least notable part of the meal. Still delicious, warm, and satisfying.
Okay.
If there's any way when this isn't the soup of the day that I can just get them to tip a little cream into my gumbo,
You'd be all right.
I'm going for that. Nice balance of flavors. A couple of pieces of good andouille sausage in there.
Oh, yeah.
And due to the, not heat, but all them Cajun spices in there, I'm not sure if the tender, slightly shredded meat was a tender, slightly shredded pork or a tender, slightly shredded chicken. Either way, there was a little bit of that, a little bit of the andouille, some vegetables in there. Very nice on a not super cold, but cold day. Good day for a warming, spiced,
Yeah.
creamy, semi-mellow, extra comforty soup.
Indeed. So speaking of comforting and nice, TJ, I actually got a lunch combo, which is kind of a cool deal. Runs about $17, and you get to try two different things, and then you get a slice of flat top grilled French bread. And I've got the mac and cheese with Tasso ham, which we'll talk about in a second, because I'm not sure if you got that or not. And then I got the jambalaya. So usually gumbo, a lot of times having crustaceans in there, some shrimp or whatever, and things. Not usually my deal. Jambalaya, so I can get it with sausage, with andouille in there, some rice, some nice tomato. A little bit more my speed, and I enjoyed this. This was good. It came out in both of my dishes in kind of a smaller cup there. Nice deep tomato flavor, and just a nice spice bouquet going throughout this dish, which is, my head goes right back to that poutine we were talking about earlier. A lot of the dishes that really stick with me that I enjoyed are these ones that are just have that flavor complexity. Jambalaya being very tasty. So that's the jambalaya. But the other thing with my combo was the Gouda mac with Tasso ham. I had that on the combo, and they take the ham, they chop it up in a small, maybe somewhere between a quarter and a half inch. So they take the Tasso ham and they chop it and they put it on the flat top and give it a nice crisp. And then they give you a cavatappi, I think is the spiral noodle shape there that's in there. And I think the sauce is actually set up in a pan with cheese and cream and done like to order, just because of how this comes together. And if you check our internet-y things on socially things, there'll be a video up there at some point. But they're working it fresh, to my knowledge, and then putting that flat top grilled ham on top of the mac and cheese. And I got a second bowl of this today because I wanted to check the sauciness level of the mac and cheese. Co-host Sam, who is not on this episode, and I really like a good saucy mac and cheese. There is another southern restaurant in town that also makes a very delicious Gouda mac that is a very thick, creamy sauce that is just destructively delicious, but wow, you gotta pace yourself because it's super heavy. This is not as heavy. This is a lighter sauce, which is kind of a fun difference, so you're not getting the same thing at both restaurants. A different noodle form factor, because here's the cavatappi pasta, and then that ham that's put on top, and there's a decent load of this ham, and think more pork belly / bacon is kind of the flavor profile of this. It's not going to taste like your Sunday dinner ham, and definitely, it doesn't have that pink nitrate-like color either. It's just, you would say it was pork belly or bacon.
Well, it's darker than that. It almost borders on like a mahogany.
Ooh, very nice. A good color contrast, too, between the lighter, yellowish kind of semolina color of the noodles plus the sauce, and then whack with the Tasso ham on top. This is a great dish. My preference is how I ordered this both times is as a side. I'm not sure I can handle an entire large bowl of this, but boy, do I like it as a side, which is the way I got it today, or as part of that lunch combo. The sauce itself, he must put some type of, there's some herbs or some pepper in there, because it is not just a straightforward Gouda sauce, which is just fine too, but there's a little bit more of that Acadian Cajun flavor profile sitting in there. I don't know, some pepper, or maybe he put some bay leaf in. I don't know, but it's interesting and fun, and because of the preparation, the pasta also holds up very nice. It's got a good al dente texture to it. It's not mushy or anything like that, and thankfully, it is saucy, which is the way I like it. You can dig your spoon to the bottom of the bowl and kind of flip the noodles around and regulate your sauce level and get as much ham in there as you would like. You can eat it right off on top or mix it all together. Dave here. TJ and I are talking Acadian Grille, located at 725 North 114th Street, where you can get savory plates made with care. Let's get to more show. TJ, how was yours?
Oh, Dave.
Yes.
I'm going to play off the mac and cheese. I haven't had the mac and cheese, I think, for a couple of years now.
Oh, so I own the mac and cheese on this one. So you're going to do some type of like noodle bounce? Like, what's happening?
I'm doing a Tasso bounce. I have a noodle bounce available to me from this particular run, but on the last one,
yes,
Dave, until you brought up the thing with Tasso,
yeah,
I wasn't going to talk about this until last.
Oh,
because this is the one for me, Dave. This might be the one.
My one
I've
is
been
coming
looking
up
for
yeah,
all my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you will recall on our Mouth of the South episode, I had shrimp and grits.
Okay.
And I could not say enough good about the shrimp and grits.
Uh-huh.
So let's talk about the shrimp and grits that I ordered the last time I was at Acadian Grille. For starters, I'm going to get the potentially unpleasant to think about bit out of the way to begin with.
Oh, no.
Because there's something about shrimp. First of all, I kind of liked him as a kid. As an adult, I don't much care for shrimp on the whole. There is one thing I look for above all else to begin with shrimp. Did you devein the shrimp, and did you do it well?
Because you had a very bad experience as a kid, which we will not talk about here, about shrimp that were not deveined.
Correct.
Yes.
So,
but yes, your dish.
This shrimp was perfectly done.
Excellent.
It in the regular, not fully butterflied, but in the regular curly shrimp format that you would expect in a more curled up than in, say, a shrimp cocktail. They were almost a kind of a round.
Okay.
But perfectly split down the back. If you could sort of envision a cross between in shape a shrimp and a popcorn kernel, where it kind of popped and plumped during cooking.
I got you.
So TJ, who is not a big fan of shrimp as an adult, for starters, the shrimp were perfect.
Excellent.
The shrimp were slightly moist, slightly toothsome, this perfect al dente texture. For someone who avoids the stuff on a regular basis, I found these delicious. I gobbled up everyone with joy and hopefully grace and aplomb. So the worst possible thing that could happen was excellent. The thing that was most important to me in this, done perfectly, and the thing that I am going to be the harshest critic of, They did better than I have had in years upon years of memory. These were excellent shrimp.
Nice.
Now, the grits. This is the other thing. It's not something I've had go wrong often, but I haven't had it go this right many times in life.
Yeah.
Cheese grits, mildly, but not so much that you don't notice it there. Flavored cheese, a cheddar-ish, if not a cheddar, but not super sharp, not super yellow. They were a white color grits, or at least in contrast to the tomato sauce, they certainly were. And at once, dense and cheesy while also being pillowy and light. The only other time I remember having this experience with grits that were this dang good was that Mouth of the South episode where I just couldn't shut up about the things. This is on par. These were absolutely wonderful. So I love the shrimp. I love the grits. On top of all this, you have a delicious, slightly acidic as a tomato sauce. I don't know about should be, but a seafood tomato sauce. I want that hit of acid to go with the seafood flavor. I think they meld nicely. And in that tomato sauce, a lot of I was aware of the vegetables. They weren't so firm as to not meld. They did blend nicely, but I was aware of them. They were just a little al dente. Some diced red and green pepper, some onion were the things I really noticed. So this bright, acidic, and at once savory tomato sauce over perfectly cooked, perfectly prepared shrimp, and the tasso.
Yes.
The tasso, the crowning
tie-in.
part of this entire dish here. The moment I bit into that, I was thinking of it as a garnish, as an extra, as a nice to have, and wow, the depth of flavor and the smoke on this extremely generous portion of tasso. There was a significant portion of the protein, I think possibly outweighing the shrimp, was made up for by this wonderful, deeply savory thing. So I had that mahogany, smoky, savory tasso on top of my Cajun spiced, interesting, nuanced, and acidic tomato sauce with the slightly al dente vegetables and the perfectly cooked shrimp over my wonderfully at once dense and pillowy grits. Everything about this was flawless, and everything about it was at once in contrast and in harmony. I love this. If you go back and listen to our original Acadian Grille episode, everything has very clearly been iterated on and developed and strengthened and improved. I was going to save this for the summary, but I'm going to say it in talking about the dish.
Do it.
When we first went, I could taste the enthusiasm. It was good food. It was different than what was available to me. I hadn't had this in Omaha really before. Different flavors than you were getting. Now I can taste the love. That is certainly there. That warmth, that wonderfulness, very dishes prepared with care. I would say on top of that, in this and a few other things on our list, I've talked about tasting the love any number of places. Here, I can also taste the skill.
Ooh.
The perfect crisp on the outside and soft on the inside, the exact right doneness of so many things in concert. There is very much a level of thought put into this and a level of skill and practice that is a rare and many splendored thing. Ooh. I am ever so slightly in love with this plate of shrimp and grits.
Wow. I also got grits on my favorite item that I had throughout these 3 visits here recently. But I'm going to save that for last because I'm going to close with that because I can feel the wow, like that was a destination dish. Like you would go back just for that, it sounds like.
And it was
awesome.
The one I thought I wouldn't like.
That's even better. Thanks for being part of our show, where we are surrounded by flavor at Acadian Grille, located at 725 North 114th Street. If you missed anything, be sure to subscribe to our podcast. And also, hang on just a bit. We'll be right back. Last stop before the end of the show. If you've got value in your life from our show, be that entertainment, information, or maybe just a laugh, please consider sending value our way via Venmo or PayPal with at Faturday Omaha. That's FATURDAY OMAHA, and 20% of monetary contributions will go to a food-based program or charity. Truly, thank you for listening and all your support. Welcome back to Faturday Omaha. Dave Zorko here, and today is all about Acadian Grille. They're located at 725 North 114th Street, and I'm happy you're here with us. So let's dig in. I believe today you also got the 5-pepper pappardelle as well, with some very nice looking pasta in the 5-pepper pappardelle pasta. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we aren't going to spend a ton of time on this, although it's my thing, and generally speaking for Acadian Grille, it's the thing I have a hard time not ordering and then ordering something else.
Oh, yes, and.
It was my absolute favorite from our very first, again, on the podcast episode.
Aha.
It has not gone down in quality, but the other things that I'm having have increased so very much that it's good, but it's not my standout at all.
Because the other things have been elevated.
Yeah, that said, it's very tasty.
That pasta looks great.
It's a very nice, not overly thick, but certainly thick and rich cream sauce.
Yeah.
Spices in there, I believe, but not so much that they are particularly noticeable, mostly because you are going to wind up with, it's a chicken, or you can sub blackened catfish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, faithful listeners to, I'm certain, the podcast, and I'm pretty sure since on the radio show, we have discussed TJ's feelings on blackened anything. Generally speaking, I am not a fan. The spice mix is okay. Usually it is overly cooked, cooked too dang hard. It sometimes is quite literally blackened, which is
Not
fine.
Just the spices, actually.
I'm sure that's the way it's supposed to be for some people, but not for TJ. And usually there's just way too dang much of it. In the chicken has a little bit more. This time I subbed for the catfish, which again, I have trouble with catfish.
Mm-hmm.
So we will get into that momentarily. But there's a little bit more of the blackening spice on the chicken. Still a good blend. A little bit less on this catfish. And the catfish, well, you're aware it has that kind of earthiness that catfish has, that ocean fish not so much, which in this case I actually liked. When it is done right, the way Grandma used to make it, darn it, when it is done well, I do like catfish. It's just I rarely have it where I'm not very aware of its exact position in the food chain.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's just enough blackening spice where you get those Cajun flavors, but it was so moist and so tender and so at once soft, tender, and robust.
Ooh.
So it's one of the fishes where it feels like you're really eating something, which is kind of one of my favorite things about catfish.
Sure.
It's the reason I like, despite I think it's a less popular fish, but like orange roughy, where the qualities that I would be looking for in a meat, a land meat, are there, as well as the tender, flaky fish kind of feeling. So it had all the things that I could ask catfish to have. I think 2 strips, but 2 fairly large
they're good size.
strips of catfish, and the exact right amount to go with this pasta. Now, it is extremely saucy. Every time I've eaten it, I've had a lot of sauce
saucy
left over.
Yeah.
But it's rich and thick and delicious, and the only modification I would make is it came with one of those toasted kind of triangular slices of
a little
baguette.
French bread. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like one more of those.
Oh.
That's about it.
Okay.
One note on the pasta.
Yes.
I'm not sure if we've discussed it on the show, but we have had a pasta making crash course. You twice now.
Yes, with wonderful Piero Cotrina of WD Cravings. That's right.
We've been made more aware of the structure of the stuff and different ways it can be made and different ways that the mouth feel. There are many different ways to make pasta, but if you've got the same dough recipe, you can make it into many different kinds, and the shape and mouthfeel is massively important. It's a very big part of the thing. And the pappardelle, I always wonder if I'm saying it right.
Sounds good.
It had something similar to the layered
You feel the layers
feel
your teeth go through.
that a handmade, in-house made pasta would have.
Yeah.
I did not check to see if it was handmade or in-house made, but the feel of it is very much there. It had that fresh feeling, but also you could almost, as you bit into it, feel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that kind of feeling of going through the layers as you bit into each piece. It's a wonderful textural sensation. And again, as with seemingly everything, perfectly cooked. I enjoy it.
Excellent.
Not the
That
star of the
shrimp
show,
and
and we
grits.
have more things to. Yeah, the shrimp and grits, and I just realized what your next thing is, and now we're gonna have a fight.
At least my stomach is going to win in this battle, because my star of the show, my favoriteest thing on my last 3 outings here that I had, has to be the Cajun meatloaf. Usually,
Yes, he just said
meatloaf. I know. And you're thinking, oh, it's meatloaf. Oh, boy, TJ. This is the most, it's hard to say the most, one of the most flavorful, savory, hunger-destroying, satisfying comfort foods I have had in a long time. The Cajun meatloaf, because it has that same level of attention to detail in the seasoning that the other dishes that I really enjoyed have, like the gravy on the poutine. This came with 2 big slices of meatloaf, and it was served over grits, and you could get the sauce on there a couple different ways. I went with the beurre blanc sauce, and this dish, TJ, was so amazing because I had this before they took the wall down in the restaurant, that a whole nother table looked over at my plate and was like, dang. Huge plate, 2 big slices of meatloaf. These grits were creamy and delicious. That beurre blanc sauce, a little bit of, I think maybe a little bit of acidic little tartness hit in there to go with the savoriness of the meatloaf, and such a complete dish. Holy smokes, this was good.
The closest I can reference the beurre blanc to is almost there's a creme fraiche kind of quality to it.
Oh, just that little bit of
Little hint of
little
tanginess and a
tangy, tarty.
whole lot of creaminess.
Oh my gosh. This was a trough of food that came out to me. It was one of those really big bowls. I had to stop myself actually from finishing this. When I went in for this meal, this is a lunch, I just got this. Nothing else. And I made it through 1 and more than 3/4 slices, and I had to stop myself from finishing this because just the grits and everything there with the meatloaf was so filling and so satisfying and delicious, and such a deep, complex flavor to a meatloaf, people. It was a delicious combination in there. So all the whatever, I'm assuming maybe he's getting a little bit of the Tasso ham or maybe some andouille in there, or whatever he's doing is delicious. Perfectly cooked, great color on the meatloaf, and again, much like the Tasso ham and the Gouda Mac, the color palette separation between the meat on there with its Maillardiness and then the grits with the beurre blanc sauce on there, great to look at, and you could regulate the creamy factor that you wanted. You know, you could get a bite of just the meatloaf or pull down into those grits and get those creamy, delicious grits to go with it. And you could just take a little bit of the grits by themselves just because of how it was staggered out there. I loved this so much. And this is a dish that, in fact, we had talked about co-host Sam from the podcast here. I actually sent him a message, and it was like, out of respect, here's some meatloaf, because he is a big fan of former Red Zone Barbecue, which is no longer in Omaha. Used to do a smoked meatloaf, and this really harkened back to that level of flavor and detail. And this, honestly, for me, this was my dish. I am a huge mac and cheese fan. I would order this and these grits over the mac and cheese. It was awesome. Dave here. Are you hungry yet? TJ and I are talking Acadian Grille, located at 725 North 114th Street, where you can get savory plates made with care. If a sweet tooth strikes you, they also make their own ice cream. But let's get to more show.
The seasoning, Dave?
The herbaceousness.
Well, now we're going to have two fights. The first fight, Dave, is you hardly mentioned the texture. I mean, you did.
Oh, the texture was
But you
great.
talked an awful lot about the seasoning.
I did.
Dave,
Yeah.
the crust, that crispy exterior, that just hint of thin but robust, meaty, crusty goodness on the outside of that. Clearly, has it from baking, that crust you get on the outside of a really good meatloaf, which I realize for many people that's an oxymoron, but darn it, the best ones have that crust on the outside from baking, and then it looks like they hit it again on both sides where they sliced it to make sure it's got that all the way around, and then they drizzle that beurre blanc on top, so there's a little bit on top and a little bit around the side, so you got that, as you were saying, varying your creaminess amount.
Yes.
You also have the extra beurre blanc sauce around the side, so if you want that a little bit more of that slight tang and creaminess on your meatloaf, you can dip into that around the sides. That's the first fight we're going to have, Dave, is the texture. What I love the spice,
delicious.
but what really hit me was the texture.
I love it.
Even more so, the perfect crustiness. But here, Dave,
Yes.
is the second fight we're going to have.
What's that?
Because you just heard how much I love those grits. But Dave,
Right.
I had mine on sweet potato mash.
What?
And you know what this meatloaf belongs on? It's sweet potato mash.
What?
You can take your grits and put them right on the side. You can put them on the side, Dave, because this meatloaf goes on the sweet potato mash. The smooth and creamy and lightly spiced, perfect sweet potato
You do
mash.
like sweet
I
potatoes?
don't like sweet potatoes that are sweet, but these were sweet potatoes with a delicious, carameliness to them. And I couldn't tell how much was from possibly roasting of the sweet potatoes to bring out their natural sweetness, and possibly some maple syrup in there. I wasn't really certain.
Sugar sweet
but
sauce,
these,
maple syrup.
These deep, delicious caramel notes in my incredibly creamy mashed potatoes with my slightly crisp meatloaf and the beurre blanc sauce on top. The textural, sweet and savory feast that happened was one of the most wonderful things to ever exist. Well, the shrimp and grits was my star of the show for this. Certainly the meatloaf came in the closest second possible, to the point where I'm trying not to mention my notes as much on the show and just talk.
Yes.
But I have to say that in my notes,
Which
I
is where you
wrote,
keep your notes.
unironically, little slices of heaven.
Oh, that's a beautiful summary. And I'm not a big sweet potato fan, but you make me want to try this because the savoriness of the meatloaf, the slight tart acidicness of the beurre blanc, and the sweetness of the sweet potatoes, you've got like a balanced dish there with like slamming flavors. So that sounds really, really good.
Yeah, and that's, again, on the review of the sweet potatoes, there are things TJ loves and things TJ hates. I do like a number of sweet potato preparations.
Yes.
But these are slightly sweet, but not too sweet potatoes. Whereas if you, for instance, show me your sweet potatoes with marshmallows on top at Thanksgiving, I will say horrible things to you, and we will never be able to be friends anymore. I hate them that much, and these I loved with a fiery passion that still burns deep inside me.
Oh my, and that was a while back. Wow. I don't think you could get much better than that. So that's 3 dishes that we had that were just sensational. So there's a lot to try on this menu and many different things to get. You heard several things from us today that are kind of our go-tos, and I would say that the summary there is just go to Acadian Grille and check them out. Go see Dan there. Go check out the flavors that he's got going and the different savory items. I think both of us had things with grits that were good, that meatloaf, the 5-pepper pappardelle, and all those different things. And maybe try that poutine if you want to too, or that. Get something with Tasso Ham. So many options, or maybe even the taco. Go there. Check it out. Go see them in Miracle Hills. Just try something on the menu. Quick hint, you can add extra protein. It's at the bottom of the menu if you want some additional stuff. Or maybe try one of those lunch combos if you want to try a couple of things. But I think, honestly, the best execution, though, are the single large plates like the meatloaf, like the shrimp and grits. And they are very delicious. Oh, and by the way, before we leave you, there's also ice cream. I had some maple ice cream. It was delicious. They make it there. Maybe give that a try. Okay. And with that, then, I will say, I'm Dave.
I'm TJ.
And we are Faturday Omaha. Thank you for being with us. And, of course, until we eat again. stay hungry. Bye. Our show is recorded and produced by Faturday Omaha. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as email FaturdayOmaha@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and stay hungry.
Faturday Omaha.
Eat this.